There is something strange about human beings. Even when we abandon religion, we replace it with ideology, with identity, with something, anything to believe in. But why? Why does the human mind refuse to exist in a vacuum of meaning? Why must we believe in something, even if it destroys us? Humans are perhaps the only creatures aware of their own existence and their inevitable end. This awareness creates a problem, an abyss within the mind. Friedrich Nietzsche called it the death of God, the moment when traditional belief systems collapse and nothing replaces them. But Nietzsche understood something unsettling. When you remove belief, you do not create freedom. You create a void, and the human mind is not built to endure emptiness. Carl Jung believed that belief is not optional, it is structural. The psyche is not made only of logic, it is made of symbols. We do not simply think in facts, we think in myths. Gods, devils, heroes. These are not merely stories. They are reflections of something deeper, something embedded within us. Remove these symbols and they do not disappear. They return in different forms, often distorted, often unrecognized. When humans lose religion, they do not become purely rational. They become believers in something else. Politics becomes religion. Identity becomes sacred. Even science, at times, becomes something people cling to with unquestioning devotion. The rituals remain. The devotion remains, the need remains, only the object of belief changes. This is why people defend ideas as if their lives depend on them, because in a way they do. Jung warned of something more dangerous than belief itself, unconscious belief. When you believe in something without realizing it, you don't possess the belief. The belief possesses you. It shapes how you see the world, how you judge others, how you define truth. This is how ideologies become rigid, how conflict escalates, how ordinary people become capable of extraordinary cruelty, not because they are inherently evil, but because they are certain, and certainty can be more dangerous than doubt. Here lies the paradox. Humans need belief, yet belief can consume them. To live without meaning is unbearable, but to cling blindly to meaning is to risk losing yourself within it. Perhaps the answer is not to eliminate belief, but to become aware of it, to examine it, to question it, to choose it rather than inherit it unconsciously. Because the real question is not what you believe in, but whether your belief is something you chose or something that chose you. Because if you do not believe in something, something will find a way to believe in you. There is a moment in the evolution of the human spirit when the heavens fall silent, not because God has died, but because something within us has. Friedrich Nietzsche did not simply declare God is dead as a triumphant slogan of atheism. That interpretation is shallow, almost willfully blind. What he revealed was far more unsettling, that humanity had outgrown its old symbols, yet had not developed the psyche to survive without them. And so we are left in a peculiar condition. We have killed God, but we have not yet become gods. To understand Nietzsche's confrontation with religion, we must abandon the idea that he was merely attacking belief. He was, in truth, diagnosing a psychological crisis. Religion, for millennia, functioned as the architecture of meaning. It provided a narrative that ordered chaos, gave suffering a purpose, and bound individuals into a shared symbolic world. In Jungian terms, religion was not just doctrine, it was the language of the unconscious. Carl Jung would later argue that religious symbols are not arbitrary inventions, but expressions of archetypes. primordial images embedded in the collective psyche. The image of God, then, is not merely a theological construct. It is a psychological necessity. So, when Nietzsche proclaimed the death of God, what he truly uncovered was this: a rupture between consciousness and the symbolic foundations of the soul. Imagine a cathedral. For centuries it stands, stone upon stone, its structure held together by belief. Then one day the foundation cracks, not visibly at first, but subtly, inwardly. The people continue to gather, continue to pray, but something feels hollow. The rituals persist, yet the spirit has withdrawn. This is the world Nietzsche saw, a world where religious forms remained, but their inner vitality had decayed. And here lies the danger, because when the symbolic center collapses, the psyche does not simply become empty, it becomes unstable. Meaning does not vanish, it fragments, and in that fragmentation new gods emerge, not gods of transcendence, but gods of ideology. Nietzsche foresaw this transformation with eerie precision. He warned that the death of traditional religion would not lead to liberation, but to a proliferation of substitute belief systems. So what, then, was Nietzsche's solution? It was not nihilism, though many mistake him for its prophet. Rather, he saw nihilism as a transitional phase, a necessary descent into the void that follows the collapse of old values. But he did not intend for us to remain there. He called for the emergence of the Übermensch, the individual who creates values rather than inherits them. But here is where a Jungian critique becomes essential. Can the individual truly create values from nothing? Jung would argue no. The psyche is not a blank slate. It is structured by archetypes that demand expression. If we attempt to create meaning purely through conscious will, we risk severing ourselves from the deeper currents of the unconscious. And this severance leads not to empowerment, but to inflation. The dangerous illusion that one has become godlike, when in reality one has merely lost touch with the ground of being. This tension between Nietzsche and Jung reveals something profound. Nietzsche represents the necessary destruction of outdated symbols, the clearing of the psychological landscape. Jung represents the reconstruction, the rediscovery of meaning through engagement with the unconscious. In a sense, they are not opposed, but sequential. Nietzsche descends into the abyss. Jung maps what lies within it. And so we return to the central question: what replaces religion? If we cannot return to traditional belief and cannot survive without meaning, what path remains? The answer is not to abandon the sacred, but to reinterpret it. To recognize that religious symbols are not literal truths to be accepted or rejected, but psychological realities to be integrated. The figure of Christ, for example, can be understood not only as a historical or divine being, but as an archetype of the self, the union of opposites, the reconciliation of the human and the divine within the psyche. So, perhaps Nietzsche's declaration was not an ending, but an initiation. The death of God is the death of unconscious belief, but it also opens the possibility of conscious spirituality. In the end, Nietzsche did not kill God. He revealed that we had lost the ability to hear him, and Jung taught us how to listen again, not in the heavens, but in the depths of our own being.